Hi there. Every year for the beginning of April, I've made an attempt at cooking something a little more different, shall we say, than your typical everyday dish made in cast iron. Last year I cooked grasshoppers, and 3 years ago I made pot brownies. But this year's dish began as an April Fool's joke, but it turned into something much more satisfying and much more delicious. It's a take on that famous dish from Scotland, haggis, which is made from sheep organs boiled in a sheep's stomach until it's ready to eat. However, haggis has actually been banned in the United States since 1971 because it's made with sheep lungs, and foods made with lung tissue cannot be legally sold in the United States. And this was why I set out to make an American version of haggis, using ingredients that are much more readily available in the USA. And the result was surprisingly easy to prepare and quite delicious. The idea for this came to mind when I came across this package of pork stomachs at a Latin American supermarket, and that immediately made me think of haggis, especially because lamb parts are unfortunately illegal to ship into the United States. So it's not like I'm ever going to be able to get sheep stomach, or for that matter, sheep lungs. However, there's really nothing wrong with substituting for lamb. The taste may not be the same, but I don't think anybody will object. So, since it's absolutely impossible to get lamb lungs here in the US, unfortunately, I've had to settle for liver and heart. And for the heart, we have some chicken hearts, which are actually, again, pretty easy to find. And for the liver, we are using beef liver. Meanwhile, we are in fact using some lamb. And for the sheep, we are going to actually be using some ground up lamb here so that it will have something of a similar flavor. Finally, to be sure we have enough fat in this, we have some beef suet. And really all we have to do is grind all this together and then mix it in with a lot of oats. However, I should say I ended up abandoning the pork stomach. I did some research and discovered pork stomach is very different from sheep stomach, and it requires a very different kind of cooking. Because of this, I decided to use sausage casings and grind those ingredients together into a kind of sausage. And this was an excuse to put together the meat grinder and start grinding everything together. I've learned it's a good idea to grind down the suet first and then grind the other thicker meats after that, so that will help clean the extra fat out of the grinder. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you for your help.
You're welcome.
When we're done, you'll get the first try.
Oh, sweet. I'm so excited. Can you hear it in my voice?
Actually, I've only used about half of it.
Don't be greedy and eat all of it on me.
And we mix it all together into something that looks, well, really disgusting. One thing about haggis is it tastes a lot better than it looks. And now to this not so awful, we add about a pound or a little bit more of regular ground lamb. And from here we mix in our spices, which are generally quite sweet. That would include salt, ground black pepper, coriander, allspice, nutmeg, thyme, and cinnamon. And to this we mix the other essential ingredient to go with haggis, and that would be a whole lot of oats. This helps give it consistency as well as absorbing some of the stronger flavors. Yeah, I have to say, this doesn't smell bad at all. And now to stuff some stomachs. As I mentioned, I ended up not using the pork stomachs and instead stuffing it all into sausage casings. This ended up producing some wonderful looking sausage, And there was even plenty of extra ground haggis left over to make without the casings. And now all we had to do was fry it all up in a cast iron skillet until it was well done and ready to eat. Maybe because of the thick consistency of the sausage, it ended up coming apart near the end, but that was really no big deal. And once the sausage was ready, it was time now to fry up the rest of the haggis. This was the leftover haggis that had not been stuffed into sausage casings. We simply shaped that into patties and fried it. And now, ready for serving, here is a dish of American haggis, accompanied, of course, by your traditional Scottish neeps and tatties. Can definitely say this is probably the most satisfying April dish cooked so far. And I'm definitely not going to have any trouble at all finishing the rest of this. And for those of you from Scotland who are ready to post your comments saying, that ain't haggis, I fully agree with you. That's why this is called American haggis. After all, we can say this about nearly all American cuisine. You take a famous dish from your native country, change it around and use completely different ingredients, but call it the same thing. Look what we've done to pizza and Chinese takeout foods. And now we're giving haggis the same treatment. What we have here is essentially a kind of sausage, but one with a much more sweet flavor than you might expect. I was quite pleased with how this turned out, and I hope you may consider this interesting enough to give it a try. Thank you for watching, and above all, have fun cooking.